She does. She is. She becomes. She is peace. She is power. She is love. She is light. She is hope. She inspires. She is many journeys in one lifetime. She is the people, an individual, a never-ending story of the beauty of possibility.
I nearly didn't get into medical school, I put it that way. So a lot of prayer and fasting had to go into that.
I was a treasury officer, went through the ranks in treasury.
Somehow, whether it's automatic or something, you find the whole reverend thing geared towards the male.
He asked me, how old are you? And I said, I'm 23. And then he said, hey, I wish I had a business when I was 23. By now I would have been a millionaire.
Be a part of She Inspires this and every Wednesday on the I Am Drive on Sunny 88.7 FM, 8:30 a.m. and live on Facebook same time. Also join in on Sunny TV every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. She Inspires.
Thank you for joining me on another edition of She Inspires. She Inspires profiles inspiring men of our times as we draw inspiration from their professional lives, their personal lives, their faith, life's lessons, and much more. I am Jennifer Jessica Danquah. You can call me JJD. So who's going to be our guest on She Inspires today? Well, she left medical practice in the UK to pursue her passion of transforming the lives of young people in Ghana. And 10 years on, she has never looked back. My guest on She Inspires today is Dr. Naomi Adjepong. She's Director of Operations at Alpha Beta Education Centers. She's a leadership coach, she's a medical doctor, and she's an entrepreneur. Naomi, thank you for joining us on She Inspires.
Thank you for having me.
So I was excited to know that you were voted as one of the 40 most influential women in Ghana. How did you feel when you woke up to that news? Did you see it coming?
Actually, no, I had no idea. So somebody sent that to me. I wasn't even aware that there was any kind of list being put together. But of course, you know, news like that is always great news. Sometimes you can, you know, you work a lot and it feels like a bit of a thankless job trying to please different people, and it's always nice to have somebody else recognize the efforts that you put in. So that was wonderful news for both myself and my family, but also for the entire Alpha Beta community.
Awesome. I think we would like to also say congratulations
Thank you.
that one. And talking about your family and Alpha Beta Education Centers, education has been in your family for over 33 years. How did it feel like growing up in a family where it's been like that? I mean, it was education.
Yes,
Probably
absolutely.
left, right, center.
Absolutely. So the school was started by my mom, and later my dad joined her. But she started the school when I was about 5 years old, and so the school was started in our house. So we were always around it, even though I didn't attend there because I was a little bit older than the school. There was always children around our house, you know, and the school as it expanded and expanded, and of course all the dinner conversations were around the school, or you know, what do we need to buy, or you know, what the teachers were doing, etc. So I grew up around that entirely till I was about 16, and I left home to go to school in the UK. But prior to that, everything was about school, you know, going with my mom to buy things for the school, and you know, obviously for the last 33 years, you know, all conversations, because it's a family business, all conversations are around that, and you know, how we move forward, you know, how we solve the problems as they arise, etc. And of course, as you know, I've been back for the last 10 years, just adding up to what my parents have built over the years. And it's been an amazing journey, obviously not without its challenges, but we are happy with the direction in which things are going.
Where you mentioned the challenges, but we're going to get into it. But when you left Ghana for UK at 16 to further education, what were you looking at becoming when you left the UK to study?
Interestingly, I mean, I had an interest in science. So out of all the science careers, I guess I settled on medicine to do. It was an exciting course. I did it for 5 years. I did my house job for a year after that. But at that point, I wasn't sure if clinical medicine was something that I really wanted to continue. And so that was when I decided to move back to Ghana.
And talking about deciding to move back to Ghana, you had been in UK for how long at
For
the
10
time?
years.
For 10 years. Was it like an easy decision to make to move back, or it was tough at a point? Did you try many times and kind of hold back and said, you know what, I have to do this? How was that process making that decision for you?
I think it was a fairly easy decision for
Okay.
me. I mean, after being away from home for so many years, I think I had just gotten to that point where also having the responsibility of being the firstborn child, I think that I felt, the responsibility of at least coming back to understand what the business was about. Because my siblings are, 5, 10 years younger than me. So it felt natural, I guess, and it was really the purpose was to try and understand the business, at least whilst my parents were still working in it. And so I guess that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years, trying to understand and trying to add, more value to what we do and what we offer our clients.
And looking back on your move from UK to Ghana, would you say it's been worth it?
Absolutely. I mean, definitely been worth it, not without its challenges, but definitely worth it for the progress that has been made.
Let's talk about the challenges moving from the UK to Ghana, being a part of the business Alpha Beta Education Centers. What have been some of the challenging experiences that you've been through?
So of course, moving back to Ghana, for the first time as a working adult, was very different. Of course, the cultural differences as well of trying to get people to understand and do things in a certain way. That was a bit of a culture shock for me. Trying to navigate some of the institutional challenges in Ghana as well. The legal systems, things that under normal circumstances where I was living in the UK would be fairly straightforward. But you come to Ghana and it's a go come, it's a pay somebody, or, there's nothing, even down to applying for a passport is a problem, getting any kind of documentation has been a challenge. But I guess everywhere has problems. I mean, every time I come against a challenge, I say to myself that, nowhere is cool. I mean, even in this pandemic period, we've really seen that nowhere is really cool. But for me, the biggest thing has been, okay, fine, if we all complain, I think that was one of the biggest things that made me move back to the continent, was that I was literally tired of hearing people just complaining about Ghana is this and Africa is that. And I said, well, if we all sit here and complain, I mean, things will never change. How can we go back and see, what we can do to contribute to making it better? And of course, easier said than done. I'm sure most of us that moved to Ghana after a few years say, Charlie, the thing is not easy. Because you come with a lot of visions and dreams and you're passionate, and a lot of people who return will tell you that, the passion starts to die down after a while, because you feel like sometimes you're just pushing and pushing, and, the system sometimes feels like it's working against you.
And how have you navigated those times with institutional challenges and the culture and all of that? Each time you encounter those setbacks, how would you encourage yourself, keep pushing and keep going to achieve your vision?
Well, it's difficult. I always say surround yourself with people with good counsel. I think that's a very helpful thing to do. So even when things are not going well, you can pick up the phone or you can meet up with somebody, and especially people who have been through similar experiences. Have friends who are older, people who have lived a little bit, and it helps, because sometimes even just running a problem past them and them saying to you, well, maybe think of it this way, because sometimes a different perspective makes a difference. Sometimes you can also magnify problems in your mind to a point where you feel that there's no solution. But sometimes just talking to somebody can help you to try and navigate some of these challenges. Some of them you can't solve, so you just have to hold on and see what happens and pray that one day the system will sort itself out.
Right. Now, talking about you coming here, hoping to make a difference, contribute your quota, and having been a part of the educational system, what would you say has been your greatest achievement since you've been here and giving it your all at Alpha Beta Educational Centers and in all the spheres of your life? What would you say has been your greatest achievement?
Well, greatest achievement, I mean, I've achieved a lot. I mean, on both the personal and the work front. You know, I came to Ghana, I found a husband and got married and had children, so I did all that.
How many children do you have?
I have 2 children.
2, okay.
So my sweet little bunnies at home who keep me on my toes. So on the family side, you know, things have been great over the last 10 years. But on the work front, one of the major successes has been the Increment Leadership Program that we run at Alpha Beta. The Increment Leadership Program is a 7-year program for high school students, and it's a dual curriculum. So we run the Cambridge International Program for the academic side, but we also have an in-house entrepreneurial leadership program that the students have to participate in. And so over the 7 years, they gain a wealth of experience through different opportunities that are provided. So whether, you know, from experiential learning activities to community service to running businesses on campus, going out for internships. But it's a very purposefully designed program that makes sure that the children get the skills and the knowledge that they need to succeed in the 21st century. I think that things have changed so much even since I was in school, that the kind of skills and the mindset that you need now is a little bit different. You know, of course, now that we have technology which has helped so much in terms of the knowledge that we can quickly pick up, but the skills that we need are what are timeless, and we make sure that the children have that, so that no matter where they go, no matter where they find, you know, we genuinely believe that knowledge changes, and right now it changes very fast. So teaching children knowledge is not really something that you want to do. How do you teach them to be critical thinkers, to be problem solvers, to be able to communicate ideas, to be able to negotiate, to analyze, to research, to be resourceful? You know, we think that those are, in a lot of ways, actually more important than the academic grades that they're getting. Obviously, they still need, we tell them, you still need the grades because that's the way that the world is still, you know, judging you, and that's the only way you can move forward. But in addition to that, at some point, you will need these other skills to be able to propel you to success.
How many students have passed through the Increment Leadership Program?
We just graduated our first cohort of students who have done the full 7 years. But even though we've run, that's the group, but there were some who started, they didn't do the full 7 years, but they did at some point, you know. So, I mean, over the 7 years, you have maybe about 200 students in total go through, because they've been moving along, I guess, if you say.
But how do you feel when you see the impact this leadership program has brought to their lives?
It's amazing. I mean, obviously, Alpha Beta has always produced leaders. So even though the Increment Leadership Program has only been there for 7 years, if you look at all the alumni of Alpha Beta, you know, they're doing so well.
I'm sure any alumni watching us is smiling right now.
Well, they're all doing so well. I mean, I'm yet to meet an alumni who's not doing well. You know, I just went to somebody's wedding on Saturday, and he's a VP at Goldman Sachs. You know, he's an alumni. We have alumni all over the world doing different things. There's some here, lawyers, dentists, some at the presidency. You know, so we've always done things to make sure that children, you know, leave us very confident and, you know, very creative, etc. But because times have changed, there was a need for us to sort of rethink the intentionality with which we're doing that. And that's what the Increment Leadership Program brought in. So even though it's only running in our secondary department, there are so many aspects of it that we put into our primary. So for example, we have a program at school called Student Market, which we hold annually. And Student Market is where students get to run a business on campus and literally go through the whole process. So they have to come and pitch a business idea. If their business idea is selected, then they get coached, you know, branding, marketing, you know.
That's awesome.
But we do this all the way from class 3.
Class 3?
Yeah, so interestingly, the smaller children are actually way more enthusiastic. You know, they're very organized. When they come for their pitching, they come with their laptop, they're, you know, all dressed up. Oh yes, and they come with their samples, and You know, sometimes their enthusiasm isn't matched by their technical know-how, but you know, I have to give them 100% for enthusiasm. But
Yeah.
we've had a few student markets, and it's been fantastic just to see the drive that the students have. You know, we had the last one we had was in July, and I had a student who was selling kebabs, and I
Oh.
asked him how many is he going to sell. He says 600. I said,
600.
wow. I said, are you sure you're going to sell all of them? He said yes. And this is a class 5 student.
Wow.
And truly, on that day, they spent over 13,000 CDs. Was revenue
They
generated
made,
from
okay.
not profit.
No profits.
That's how much was spent at the market, which
Spent
I
at the
thought was
market,
pretty
okay.
impressive.
Right.
So I mean, it's something that we you know, we are excited about. The students are excited about it. You know, we have parents who come around and support as well. So we think it's just the beginning of many more things to come. But obviously, an intentional effort for things like entrepreneurship are important for the continent because there are no jobs. So what we need to be doing is training up a new generation of people who are intentional about being able to provide jobs for other people. So it's not just about them. It's about, you know, what can you do to even get other people out of unemployment. So that's the mindset. And of course, another thing that we're passionate about is generational business. In Ghana, it's something that is not, you know, a lot of the time the owner dies and the business dies with
I
them.
wonder what's going to happen to the business.
Yes, so we are trying to look at how we can create a generation of young people who can take over their parents' businesses. So even from that young age, how can you look at what your parents are doing and, you know, what value can you add and, you know, how can you get it to the next level? So that they start thinking, because sometimes we have, unfortunately in our culture, we have entrepreneurs who want their children to become lawyers and engineers and doctors because they feel that that's what they're working for, so that their children can have a better life. But they don't think, oh, maybe I should train my child so that they can also become an entrepreneur. And they can still be a doctor, but they can at least, you know, help me to,
right.
yes.
And I'm thinking of your kebab students. So if their mom was selling at maybe 100,000 kebabs, they possibly can figure out they can sell 200,000 kebabs, taking over the family business. This is She Inspires, profiling inspiring women of our times. We are with the Director of Operations, Dr. Naomi Adjepong. She's our guest on She Inspires today. Thank you to our sponsors, Duffy's Health and Beauty and Ajele Jewelry. Now moving on to Dr. Naomi Adjepong, you're one person who is hopeful that millions of children in Africa will have access to coaching and guidance. Why are you so passionate about this? And how are you contributing to make this possible?
One of the things that makes a huge difference to young people is just being able to have somebody to give them a bit of direction. I mean, that's because sometimes you'll be amazed at how much of a difference it can make to a young person. For a lot of young people, they don't really have access to somebody who will just sit them down and say, look, what are you interested in? What are you good at? Young people find themselves having to balance a lot of things, including parental expectation, because it's like if your parents want you to be a doctor, that is what you will be. Whether you're good at science or not is irrelevant. So I think that the majority of young children, or young people, teenagers, if they have somebody to just sit them down, you know, what are you good at? What do you think you want to do? What kind of job do you think you want to do? Because some people are not suited for an office job. So right from the beginning, you can start having conversations about what alternative options are available to them. How can they build their skills? How can they get access to opportunities that will improve their outlook? And I think that is what is making a difference for my students and for the young people that I've had. So apart from the Danquah Leadership Program, I've had other, you know, youth empowerment programs that I've run in the past, and you'll find that even just a 2-day program can make a huge difference to a young person's life, because just for somebody to, you know, switch that button on really and say, well, actually, you know, go and do an internship. You'll be amazed at how many young people never even think about going to do an internship.
Probably never even heard of.
Never even heard of it, right? But I always say that there are some things that are vehicles for learning a lot of skills. So whether it's a voluntary, you know, going and volunteering somewhere, even being a Sunday school teacher, or your parents have a business, go and work there on a weekend. You know, they take these things for granted, but it teaches you time management. It teaches you, you know, interpersonal skills. It teaches you how to dress properly to go somewhere, you know. And those things can't be taken for granted. These are how people lose jobs, because they can't get there on time, they go inappropriately dressed, they don't know how to speak to people. These are very basic things. And just for a young person to hear that, oh, you know, go and try this, or go and do this course, or even go online and do a free course, or go and watch this video. Those are little things that somebody has to tell them. If they don't get access to somebody to tell them, it's true. It's not everybody you can help. Sometimes you tell people all of those things, but they'll do what they want to do. But for what it's worth, if we're able to get the masses of young people educated in this way, it will make a difference.
Naomi, I saw a post of yours where you talked about 2020 being a year of hard knocks.
Wow.
Do you mind sharing some of those hard knocks with us and how you navigated those times? Did it make you a better person for some of these hard knocks that you experienced? Can you take us back to 2020?
Well, I'm sure for most of us, 2020 is a year we'd like to erase from our memories.
Put on delete.
Well, I mean, not for everybody, I guess. I guess in every situation, you have to try and see what opportunities are presented. So, I mean, hard knocks were there. I mean, on personal front, on a professional front, as you know, keeping clients in the education space happy all over the world was problematic. So we were not left out of that. Trying to please the clients, trying to make sure that employees were paid, trying to provide some sort of service to make sure that the children were not missing out, and also trying to balance the fact that children would come back to school at some point and you needed to be ready, was all very tough. And I think one of the things that the pandemic did, it put human beings under such intense strain. I don't think that any of us thought that something like that could affect us in the way that it did. And it made people act in ways that perhaps they never would have acted. It was almost like everybody was in survival mode.
Yeah.
So everybody was, not really trying to understand the next person. Everybody thought, well, this is my position and I'm sticking to it. And the next person thinks it's their position and they're sticking to it. And so it made life very stressful. Of course, we haven't fully come out of it. I think things are better than they were. Well, we thought things were better than they were, but I'm not sure where things are heading right now.
Yeah.
But we live in hope. We have to live in hope. And I mean, people died, people walked away. That so many things happen in that period because one of the things I guess is that in the end, everybody acts in their own self-interest.
Yeah.
I think that Adam Smith was not wrong when he said that, in the end, everybody will act in their own self-interest. And it's for you to be able to, as an individual, balance what you need to do. And, whether you do need to please everybody or not, you just have to remain focused on what you're trying to do. Because if you say you're going to listen to everybody and, what everybody else is doing, it becomes extremely difficult for you. So
remain focused on what you want to do. This She Inspires with Dr. Naomi Adjepong. You're married, you have 2 wonderful children, and you're quoted to have said that for a woman to be the best wife, the best mother, the best sister, best daughter, career woman, you must remember to look after you. We want to draw inspiration from you today. How have you done this for yourself so we can learn from you? How can women listening to us, watching us, take care of themselves so they can be their best selves for the others or for others?
So it's easier said than done?
I would say so.
So balance, of course, is always key. And sometimes looking after yourself can be something as small as getting enough sleep. Sometimes we maybe think of looking after ourselves as something very extravagant, but it might just be, making sure you're getting enough sleep, making sure you're eating properly, making sure that every now and again you get out and do something. I think sometimes it becomes very easy to get bogged down with routine. You're going up and down, you're coming home, you're doing housework, you're going to work. The whole day, weekends have come with its own sort of activities and chores that have to be done. So sometimes, just plan, go out with a friend for a coffee, go out for dinner, do something, that you wouldn't under normal. Sometimes I even have to say, okay, I'm going shopping to buy something for myself.
For yourself, not for the children, not for the husband, not for the school, but
myself.
for yourself.
And sometimes I actually was telling my colleagues at work the other day that when you get paid, decide on amount of money that you're going to spend on yourself without feeling guilty. And it doesn't matter how much it is, 50 CDs, 100 CDs, 200 CDs, whatever you decide, because otherwise you can't work every day for somebody else.
Yeah.
Because eventually, apart from the bills and all the other things, there's always people who are waiting to, get something
To suck out of you.
Right. So, and you owe it to yourself. I don't think it's a selfish or a greedy thing, but you also need to inspire, motivate yourself to keep going. And so I try and do little things. Sometimes I'll go away for a little break or do something that just looks after you, because sometimes, in as much as other people don't necessarily want what's bad for you, different people expect different things, whether it's at home, it's at work, it's extended family, everybody expects something from you, but they won't always necessarily look after you the way you would look after yourself. So it's important that you sit down and think about what it is that you need. I think at a conference that we were both recently at, one of the things
The Leading Ladies
Network Conference. One of the things I liked was Yawa said she has a reminder on her phone at, I think, 12 o'clock that ask her, how are you feeling and what do you need?
I'm going to set that reminder. I must have missed that session.
I thought it was a great piece of advice, because sometimes it's easy to just be an autopilot and not really even think. And at 12 o'clock, how am I feeling? What do I need? It could just be hunger. I'm hungry. I need food.
Food, just that.
So I think for women especially, with all the competing demands, it's important that we ask ourselves what we really need and make sure we get it.
Ask yourself what you really need and make sure you get it. It's important to stay well. Let's talk about your faith. How would you say it's been a bedrock as the medical doctor you were, the education consultant you are, as the mom, as the wife, leadership consultant? I could go on and show entrepreneur.
It's the core. I think that so many things go on around you. The way that I've come to look at life is that, nothing happens unless God permits it. So God is in absolute control. So sometimes when things are going on and it's tough, I just have to remind myself that God is in control. Sometimes we don't like what's happening. It doesn't mean that God is not in control. It doesn't mean that God has abandoned us. He hasn't promised that life will be easy. So we just have to continue to trust. And I think from everything, all the way, maybe another day I'll share my story about how I got into medical school. That was a whole other thing. But
are you able to summarize for us?
I nearly didn't get into medical school, I put it that way. So a lot of prayer and fasting had to go into that. I guess in 2 lines. So I got rejected from a couple of medical schools, and my mom summoned the whole team and started praying for me, and we later on found out that my grades that had been sent to the university were wrong.
Oh my.
Yeah, so I had to correct all that. So eventually I was able to get an offer that I could use. So, God has always been, my parents are very strong Christians. My father is a pastor. My mom has been at the children's ministry for the last 13 years. My parents instilled in us a very strong faith. When we look at what our parents have been through, we know that, God has us completely. So that's what carries us. So no matter what happens, I always say, look, God wouldn't allow it to happen if it wasn't meant to be for me and make me stronger. And so I just, just try and look on the bright side every time and say, God is in control.
Naomi, as an inspiring woman of our times, we're having on She Inspires today, and I know there are lots of women listening, watching us. What would you say are the top 3 lessons on your heart you'd like to share to encourage someone listening to us so they can draw some kind of inspiration from you today?
Well, there are a lot of lessons.
So give us your top 3.
I think the key thing is to stay humble. Stay teachable. There's always someone that can teach you something, so don't feel like you know everything. Second thing I think I mentioned earlier is surround yourself with good counsel. If you're the person who's always telling your friends what to do, you need to get new friends.
Okay.
Because it means that nobody is nobody is feeding you, you're feeding everybody, no one's feeding you. And at the end of the day, you can't give what you don't have. So you need to surround yourself with, people who can inspire, motivate, and encourage you. The last thing I would say is, I guess, again, just a reminder on the balance. As a woman, there are a lot of competing things. And I always say that I don't think that as a younger woman, we don't understand and appreciate all the things that lie ahead. I think sometimes as young women, we're so, the societal pressure, okay, let's finish school, let's get married. But we don't really understand, what's going to happen after that. And I think that it's important that you, one, recognize and appreciate that there are going to be competing interests, and how do you balance that and make sure you don't lose yourself.
Wow. So be humble and be teachable. Surround yourself with good counsel and also find your balance. Dr. Naomi Adjepong, thank you so much for being our guest on She Inspires. It's been such a delight having you, and I know that having you on today has spoken to a woman out there, even some men, I'm sure, who've joined us on the show today. Thank you so much for coming on She Inspires. And thank you all for joining us today. Our guest on She Inspires has been the Director of Operations at Alpha Beta Education Centers. She is also a leadership coach, a medical doctor, and an entrepreneur. She Inspires has been brought to you by Duffy's Health and Beauty. They're into 100% natural skincare products. And so you're looking for natural skincare products, it's only Duffy's Health and Beauty. She Inspires is brought to you by women. Women support She Inspires and make it possible. Also brought to you by Ajele Jewelry. You can check her out on the website as www.shopajele. Ajele, thank you for these lovely accessories. Thank you for joining us on She Inspires. We're back on your screen. We're back on air next week. I'm Jennifer Jessica Danquah. Thank you.
She does. She is. She becomes. She is peace. She is power. She is love. She is light. She is hope. She inspires. She is many journeys in one lifetime. She is the people, an individual, a never-ending story of the beauty of possibility.
I nearly didn't get into medical school, I put it that way. So a lot of prayer and fasting had to go into that.
I was a treasury officer, went through the ranks in treasury.
Somehow, whether it's automatic or something, you find the whole reverend thing geared towards the male.
He asked me, how old are you? And I said, I'm 23. And then he said, hey, I wish I had a business when I was 23. By now, I would have been a millionaire.
Be a part of She Inspires this and every Wednesday on the I Am Drive on Sunny 88.7 FM, 8:30 a.m. and live on Facebook same time. Also join in on Sunny TV every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. She Inspires.